Hello everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Youth Council Talk Show. I'm your host, Mina Sullivan. Today as our guest, we have the Farmington Hills Mayor, Dr. Kenneth Massey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Farmington Hills. By profession, I'm a scientist. I work for Wayne State University as my full-time job. I've been on council now for a little over 12 years. 3 of those years were as mayor pro tem and on a number of different things along the way on council, and was elected as mayor in November.
Cool. So how long have you been involved with the city as a council member and on committees?
Well, that's quite a while. Actually, I started on my homeowners association, and that would have been back in 1992, and then actually was elected to council in 2003. Prior to that, I had been on the Emergency Preparedness Commission and was, like I said, elected 2003, and then I have a number of positions that I've been working in the interim.
So what are some of your past projects that you have worked on as a council member?
So the Emergency Preparedness Commission is a big one for me. As I was doing my training, I was a paramedic for 10 years, so public safety, EMS, that type of thing is very important to me, and I think that's the number one role of government. So the EPC, not only was I a member, but I also chaired the Emergency Preparedness Commission. I started Farmington SAFE, which stands for Suicide Awareness for Everyone, and it's our committee to talk about mental health and help to reduce the incidence of suicide within our community and surrounding communities. I serve on the Michigan Municipal League. We're members there. I'm also on the National League of Cities, where I sit on the steering committee for public safety and crime prevention. Chaired that group in 2012. Actually hosted the group here in Farmington Hills in 2007.
Wow. So what made you run for mayor?
Yeah, it's a great question. Why anybody decides to run for elected office is usually it's a really personal idea. But when you step from council member to the decision to run for mayor, it's because you have a vision. And I think we have a great community, and that's been shown numerous times over by lots of rankings as the best city to live in or a safest city. And I wanted to build on that. I wanted to see us deal with some of the issues that are coming at us that we see as small problems right now. We want to deal with those before they become big issues. Another thing I wanted to participate in is the economic development of our community, all of which you don't want to change something that's most of our residents really feel is a great place. You want to build on it and make it a better place. And the way our structure is, mayor is a term-limited position in our community, and last year was Mayor Brickner's last year. I looked at this, I could see I had a vision for where I thought we should go, and I was honored to have the citizens support me in that.
That's a great vision. So is being a mayor a full-time job?
No. Depends on I should say no in Farmington Hills. Actually, none of us on council, it's not a full-time position. We are a strong city manager form of government. So the council and the mayor really represent governance, not management. In some other communities that have a different structure, for instance, the city of Detroit, or even the city of Livonia, those have strong mayor forms of government. And in those locations, mayor would be a full-time position. So I have a full-time job, and I do my mayoral duties around that full-time position.
So how is being a mayor different from a normal city council member?
Well, let's talk, if I can change your question around just a hair, how are they similar? Because we have more similarities than dissimilarities. A mayor in this community is a single vote, just like every single council vote. We have responsibilities to go to civic events. We have to keep in touch with our community and our constituents. All of those types of things. We, City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, and the Mayor all do those. Where the Mayor transitions a little bit is that you're setting the final agenda in conjunction with the City Manager for meetings. The Mayor votes last on issues. So if we have a contentious issue where the split is 3-3 amongst the City Council, the Mayor casts that deciding vote. The Mayor has more ceremonial duties. We spend a lot more time in this community. The Mayor actually does weddings. That's not true in every community. A lot of civil ceremonies in other communities are done by judges. And finally, when it comes to Emergency Operations Center, if there was to be a disaster, the Mayor is responsible for calling the governor and asking for the declaration of a state of emergency. So those are a couple of things that differentiate us, but for the most part, we're very similar.
Cool. So you touched on this a bit, but what exactly are your responsibilities as mayor? Do you solely run the city?
No, we are, here again, that's a great question, and you try and communicate that to a lot of residents. In our charter, as a strong city manager form of government, the hired city manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of managing the city. He oversees and works with staff. He's responsible for budgeting or setting up the budget. As mayor, you work with the city manager, you work with the staff, and we approve the budget as it's proposed. We work through that. That's one of the busiest seasons that we have on council, is that month of May when we're actually doing the budget. But we don't run the city per se. Lots of other things that we do, though, the mayor does here, are ceremonial. I participate in ribbon cuttings. I participate, like I said, doing weddings. We run the meetings for city council, study sessions, those types of things. And then you get into a lot of fun where you are the cheerleader for the city of Farmington Hills. Mm-hmm. So as mayor, I have to be the advocate for the city, and we'll meet with representatives from businesses, representatives from other governmental bodies and so forth, and put that face forward of our community to whomever it is that I'm meeting.
So what is the best part of your job as mayor?
Oh, it's simple. It's working with people. It's working with our community. We've got great folks in this community. We've got great city staff. And not everything works perfectly because people have difficulties and issues, but if above and beyond anything else, it's my opportunity, for instance, to sit down with you and other members of the Mayor's Youth Council. You don't always get to that same level when you're doing it as a council member. The mayor has more responsibilities in that fact, and that's a lot of fun.
Well, being mayor sounds like a lot of fun, but what are some challenging parts?
Well, the challenging parts are when people have issues. And in fact, it's one of the things that resulted in my even looking at council back a number of years ago. I was raised to be part of a solution rather than to be part of a problem or just to complain about it, and looking for those solutions. Sometimes they're not easy, and we have challenges. How we pay for our local roads. Citizens don't always like the way the city charter is set up, and working through those public hearings can be long, can be arduous, and there's a lot of feelings, pro and con, in helping guide council through that. It really tests your leadership ability.
So what do you think are the most pressing issues for this year?
For this year, one of the things I want to deal with is economic redevelopment and economic development. We need to have a way of increasing the value of the city, because we're still facing challenges from the recession that we went through in 2008, 2009. And finding ways to get people's property values to rebound more quickly is a very important one. Another one is ensuring that our city remains a very safe city. And we've got some challenges. A couple of things I alluded to when I said that there were problems that we're just starting to see the head of. We have a number of folks in this community now that are considered homeless. And we want to work with those people and make sure that they can enjoy the fruits of the city of Farmington Hills as well, and help get them, find them housing and get the kids in school and so forth, because very important. Roads are another big pressing issue, and a lot of those, we have plans now for our major local roads, but dealing with our subdivision roads so that really the infrastructure is safe and up to what the residents of Farmington Hills deserve. So those are a couple of the big issues that we're going to be working on this year and next year. And as part of that, I also want to hear what's on other people's minds. We've recently heard that deer, there's a lot of folks that are concerned about the number of deer in the city. So we're doing an actual study to determine, is that just a perception, or do we really have an issue? And it could not be done until this time of year when all the leaves are gone, and we're taking aerial photographs and actually counting the deer population. So we have real data on which to base decisions. And then as part of listening to residents, my plan is to be holding quarterly, I should say, quadrant meetings where I go out and actually meet groups of folks in the various quadrants in the city by going to the fire station community rooms and listening. That's a huge piece of what we need to be able to do.
So what do you hope to accomplish this coming year?
What I hope to accomplish this year is get us on track with how are we going to work on that economic development question. I want to see the police department starting to carry Narcan, which is a drug to reverse opiate overdoses. That's actually going to happen before the end of February, which I'm very excited to say. We started it early on. The police officers are being trained right now. I want to set up the series of quadrant meetings so that I can hear residents' other concerns. And I'd love to be able to come up with an alternative to the traditional special assessment districts that we use to pay for our local roads. Charter mandates that we do it this way, but I've got some ideas that council and I are going to have a discussion on during our goal setting session.
So one question I've been waiting to ask you is, how do you plan on helping the youth?
How do I plan on helping the youth? That's a great question. First of all, you need to tell me what it is that you guys need, so that's part of the listening process. But I think that the programs overall that we're putting in place are sound, and we are going to be meeting with the school district on, I believe it's February the 29th is what we have it scheduled for, where the cities and the schools can come together and talk about how we can better work together to serve the youth. And then I think the programs that we've started, like Farmington Safe, was focused on our youth. So all of those types of things and others that we probably haven't heard of yet, that's what will come out of our meetings. And I'm looking to the Mayor's Youth Council to help communicate that with me.
So is there anyone you would like to thank that helped you get to this position?
Oh, my wife, Catherine, because if it weren't for her and her tolerance and her support and her understanding of the vision, I would not be serving on council, and nor would I have been able to successfully run for mayor. So first and foremost, people need to understand the families get involved in these things. And then there are lots of people who voted, so a big thank you has to go out to the citizens who have, through their vote, said that they agree with the vision that I articulated and that they wanted us to move in that direction. So it's a big honor to be able to step into the mayor's role in the community in which I grew up in. So I want to thank the community.
That's wonderful. So more pertaining to your philosophy, what do you think is integral to success?
Well, one is having a vision. Two is being able to articulate that vision, and that comes down to leadership. And then it's being able to put it into action so that you can work and achieve the vision. All of those things are integral in what we need to do. You have to have the stick-with-itness too. You know, some things aren't always easy. there are programs that a lot of us would like to see, and it has to be something that you are willing to work on for a long period of time. Because things, if they're worth having, they're worth working for. So you have to realize it's not going to happen overnight. And that's sometimes hard to remind yourself.
That's great. So for youth who are interested in politics, what advice would you give to them?
I would say really evaluate yourself, your interests, evaluate how you feel about issues, and why do you want to do that. My reasoning for going into this was not because I have an agenda to go up and become a higher elected politician. It's because I really enjoy the opportunity to be able to help my fellow residents. One of the best things is when somebody calls up and says, my trash didn't get picked up. Who do I need to call? And I can give them that number and that contact, and that solves a problem. It may not be a big problem in the grand scheme of things, but it's a problem for them that day. That goes back to my days when I was a paramedic. When you deal with somebody in that situation, they're having a really bad day, and your job is to try and make it a little bit better for them. I would evaluate why you want to do something. If you want to become president, that's a very different view than if you want to do something in local government.
Amazing. So before we end our show today, is there any last comments you'd like to say?
Just we're here to help. I dread saying, hi, I'm from the government and we're here to help, because that's so, A, it's cliche, and B, it's not always true. But our community is a great community. We have things that we can do to make it even a better community, but it takes all of us. And we have to be friends, we have to be neighbors, we have to be inclusive, and we all have to have a little tolerance to achieve that end goal of making Farmington Hills a great place to live and work. And having our youth involved actively in that process that gives you a lot of, I should say, it gives me a lot of pleasure and excitement that our future is going to be just as great, if not better, than it has been.
So again, I want to thank our mayor for being on the show with us today, and thank you to all our viewers who watched this episode of the Mayor's Youth Council Talk Show.